Welcome to DT Madness Chronicles from the Third Life, episode 99, July 21st, 2024. So glad you could make it. Starting off the morning with my cachava smoothie. Maybe that'll be a way I can make some money is start getting cachava to pay me for advertising. I'm already off script like Trump here, but in my the cachava is the jungle food. It's like a protein powder, but it's got all the things. Well researched by my friend Andrew, who I trust on things like that. Tasty too. I'm a vanilla guy. Vanilla guy. So um, frozen blueberries, frozen spinach. When I'm going all in, like a scoop of peanut butter, frozen avocados, and 14 ounces of water. But anyway, then I've been putting like a little bit of ginger, like a ground ginger, in there as well. And it is just so tasty and relatively healthy, I guess, with all those kinds of things. The tricky part with the frozen avocados is how do you get them to actually blend up? Because what I don't enjoy are the chunky bites of frozen avocado. I mean, I I, I power through. I've got some grit here, but it's unfortunate. And so I just continue to mess around with the sequence of which ingredients to put in first. All that to say, I can report that today the avocados were nice and smooth, and I'm nourished. I've also been working on a new playlist. I love playlist making. I liked making burned CDs. I liked making mixtapes. I was never in the 8-track era. I don't even know if you could make a mixed tape 8-track. I don't know if that's even a thing. Um, but yeah, the new playlist, it really is. I'm trying to make it really new. Um, with new music, I mean, and it started because I don't really remember which order this went, but I found Zach Bryan, um, whose songs, and I know people say this about my music, and they're wrong about my music, but Zach Bryan songs all really do sound just exactly the same. And so it's really difficult for me to pick one out and say what it is. But there is a new one called Pink, or I don't know if it's new. There's a new one to me called Pink Skies. And it's like about a funeral and it's about loss and things like that. And so the lyrics resonate with me. But the reason why I listened to it is because I saw that this particular track features Watch House, which is Mandolin Orange, Andrew and Emily. And, I love Mandolin Orange slash now called Watch House. Um, they're my favorite duo, uh, period. Like, they're my favorite duo. And Emily's voice is, I think I've documented it on here, probably my most favorite female voice. Definitely was in the top five whenever that episode aired. Um, so yeah, I put that one on there. And then my friend Paul, he had posted on Facebook the Red Clay Strays. They got a new album that drops on Friday. And so I listened to a track from the new album, but then I went and listened to their other album. I can't tell you what it's called. And I really liked it. Like, I haven't been able to get into Tyler Childers, although I think I did put a Tyler Childers song, maybe Feathered Indians or something like that, on this new playlist called Late Summer. But it's kind of a Tyler Childers vibe. I'm talking about Red Clay Strays. Not as like gritty and soulful as Chris Stapleton. A little bit of the old school country voice like Sturgill Simpson. But I like the lyrics, and that's a huge part for me. Is like I need to be able to relate and feel something from the lyrics. And I really like the Red Clay Stray, so I put them on there. And I just been kind of going through the new music mix on Apple and the chill mix, and then letting it go through infinity if you have Apple Music, and maybe Spotify does that too. Um, to try to add in some different artists that I haven't listened to, or songs that I haven't listened to, like from Acoustic Syndicate, in a really long time. So I put those on there, making that late summer playlists. But anyway, um, you guys ever watch soap operas growing up, or even still today? We were a Young and the Restless family. Bold and the Beautiful came on right after that, and was kind of a spin-off, I guess, or at least some of those, it was a crossover. And but Young and the Restless was, I mean, we would go to Mama's house, Mama Tency, Tency. We would go to her house almost like on the regular on Sundays, and she would make those biscuits and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Young and the Restless wouldn't have been on then. Maybe she was recording it on VHS, or maybe as usual, my memory is all jumbled up. But I know at some point we would sit around and we would watch Young and the Restless over at Mama's house, or at least talk about what was going on with Victor and Nikki and Jack, and maybe Nikki, and all the other characters I can't remember. Um, but Victor versus Jack was it was the battle. And it still is. Like that's the thing is I was watching it the other day. I saw that it was on, and so I clicked onto it. And Nikki is still there, and Nikki still kind of looks like she always did. Now Victor is looking really old, which he's got to be, because I'm talking about 40 years ago, right? I mean, was he on there? I got to look this up. I got to look it up and see how long Young and the Restless was running. But you know, I was a I was a Jack guy. I'm Jabot, you know. And my roommate in college, whose name was Willie, but had a nickname Chill, he was a Victor Newman guy, because we would watch it in college too. And so I don't know what the storylines are anymore. I noticed that it's Newman Enterprises, or Newman Media, was what his company is now, and it used to be Cosmetics. Like I know Jabot was Jack Abbott, you know. Anyway, Young and the Restless, man. And now I'm not so young, but still restless. And speaking of, oh my goodness, I am so ready for school to start back. I am just ah I I get to take off on my fish tour in a couple of days, maybe a week or so, but hopefully they'll get this computer glitch thing fixed out, man. I don't enjoy that. I'm sure the people who are stranded in the airports don't enjoy it. But yeah, I'm done. I'm done with the summer. I'm sure teachers out there are just, and I know students are wringing their hands right now. Like, how could you possibly be ready to go back to school? But I'm just completely bored and done and out of things to do, and ready to get back into like the routine, ready to start figuring out the routine, the new routine, and how am I going to fix it? You know, tennis practice will be a part of it, and um, whatever. I'm ready to get back into the swing and start teaching the new things. I mean, what a time! What a time to be teaching AP Government and civics, um, and even psychology. You know, and so I'm really ready for all of that, and just chomping it, like just I'm really, yeah, ready for school. I was reading a lot of the summer, and I was in a good groove reading, and you know, Oprah needs to pop up a new one for me here pretty soon. But I did see the New York Times published their 100 best books of the 21st century, maybe, or something like that, and so I looked at that list, and one of the ones that we had was by Zadie Smith, called White Teeth. And I've read some pages. I've read 30 or 40 pages into it, and I might continue. It's not like I hate it or anything like that. It hasn't really grabbed me too much, but it was number seven or number somewhere around on the list of that New York Times book, but a list. I really think that because I read, um, Edgar Sawtell, and then Familiaris. I don't want to read anything else. Those were so good. Those were so good. I cannot tell you. You may or may not like them, but man, it was just phenomenal to me. And so anyway, I know that there's a couple out there, Seven Wives of Evelyn Hugo, and Matthew and Abigail have told me about Daisy and the Six, which is the same author, and so I might try to pick those two up, to knock out while I'm traveling and before school gets back into. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been looking, just trying to figure out things to do. Oh man, like because like if I'm cleaning at the house, or I've got a handyman project to work on, something like that. Like I'm finishing. I'm waking up, and I wake up at 6 or something. And I go walking before it gets too hot, and like by before lunch, I'm done with all the things, and I don't. I'm having trouble finding things to do, and so Isaac and I have thought about getting into golf. The problem is my golf clubs out in the building don't have a bag because the squirrels ate my golf bag, and that was a long time ago. And it's been probably 10, 12 years since I've played. Isaac's never played, so that really is going to be fun. So we're going to try to pick up some old sets of clubs or something and go out onto the golf course. I did like, I'm an art guy. When I was in New York on over right before New Year's, and up there by myself after my friend David left, I walked to the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, and it was really fascinating to me. Like some of the stuff is super weird, and some of the stuff I fall in with the regular folks, and it's just like, yeah, I don't get it. But most of it, I'm just, I don't know. I don't, so anyway, I looked up to see if there was modern art in Charlotte, and there is Bechtler Modern Art Museum, and so I took off last week, sometime last Thursday, last sometime, and rode up to Charlotte to park in the Levine parking garage. Now I drove the Dodge Ram, and so when I went to this parking garage, it was just insane. It was insane, and like I circled around, I'm sure the same block, or like the same block, probably 6 or 7 times, looking for a spot that would be fairly easy to fit the Dodge Ram in. And I never did find one. And finally, I was just like, all right, well, I'm going to go for it. And I mean, I was within an inch of this big giant concrete column. Had to pull my mirrors in on the side, but I did. I squeezed it in there because I'm a city guy. And so we got the parking thing going, got up to I was 30 minutes early, of course, and so I had to wait till the thing opened, and then got to go in, and it's 4 floors, and really it's not though, because like on the third floor there was just this one exhibit. Second floor there were some things that were pretty cool to look at, but the fourth floor is where all the cool stuff is, and they tell you to go up there. And so I'm wandering up there. I'm the first one in, and so I'm in there pretty much alone, looking at like a Picasso. Pottery. Like he made pottery with an owl on it. And you think about Picasso, that isn't really what you think about. Um, I really have heard some of these other names of people. There was a Warhol. There was some cool artists' sketches and different interpretations of things. Sculptures. Sculptures that light up and play sound. Things like that. Um, but I really do enjoy that kind of stuff. And then the I don't know what you call these people. The person that worked there, she came upstairs and was telling me about some of the things, um, which was fine. And I told her that I was kind of ignorant about art, and she's of course like, oh, no, you're not. But I told her I went to New York, And told her that, I don't really know a lot about this stuff, but I find that it moves me. And I said all that with a good straight face, which is, it isn't untrue. It's just funny that I would be saying those kinds of things. So she told me about the history of some of the things, and it really is a pretty cool collection. Um, Only cost me $7 because I'm an educator, plus the three to park in that insane garage. But not bad. I really did enjoy looking at the art. And then I had to be home relatively quick because Isaac's buddies were coming around. But after I got out of the art museum, um, I just took a stroll up into da- is it uptown, downtown, uptown Charlotte, where all the skyscrapers are. Because I do love cities, like, and I would just tell you that, like, as I was walking up to these main areas, one Tryon or whatever they're called, um, like, it was just striking, like the architecture is, it's elegant but confident, it's inviting. Um, I don't, I'm a city guy, you know, and just like the modern art, the architecture, the architecture moves me, and I do love the city as much as I like to be at home, like chilling, watching sports, or sitting on the front porch watching it rain. As much as I like to decompress after a day of school or something like that, there is something about being in a city by myself where nobody else knows who I am, and nobody really cares either. Like, everybody's just moving and doing their thing. Um, I do like Charlotte. I like Charlotte. I like being downtown in Charlotte, and maybe instead of just waiting on these, I'll be in St. Louis. I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy that uptown. I'm not sure. I really liked Milwaukee. I not maybe not Chicago as much. New York, I love. I don't mind downtown Atlanta or uptown Atlanta, whatever you call it. But I do. I love the buildings and the bustle and the hustle and um, the different options of places and how you can just sit down and watch the people go by, and they really don't pay any mind to you. And that's a pretty cool thing, that I do enjoy. And so, yeah, you know what? Maybe I need to make a city trip once a month or so instead of just waiting when I go to these concerts. I have been talking to my friend ChatGPT. I believe 4.0 is out now, about how to make more money on the side. I've been making some moves with was able to pay the 22 Camry off, and so that's pretty good. I feel good about that. Got some student debt for the kids coming up, and or some student payments. You know what I'm saying? For the kids coming up, and it'll be time to buy the new Camry for Isaac, who will be 16. He won't get it when he's 16. Of course, I need to test drive it for a couple of years before he gets his. But that's our thing, man. I like to buy them a nice car that will last them for a decade or more, and that'll be kind of their graduation present. And Isaac's the last one, and so I asked ChatGPT how I could make some more money on the side. And it gave me a decent list. I could make money by podcasting, which I don't. Freelance writing, is something that maybe I could do. I'm a fairly decent writer. I can write. I know about language. And I guess I could Uber or DoorDash, something like that. I could drive the Dodge Ram around in uptown Charlotte and bring people their lunch. So, probably not going to happen. But, the thing about how to make extra money that was kind of a little bit depressing to me is I don't really have any special skills. I can't fix things, like my lawnmower cranks and then it immediately goes off. My little push lawnmower, I can get it to crank and then it immediately cuts off. And so I Google it, which is nice. Probably a carburetor. I don't know where is the carburetor. I could find it. I'm intelligent enough to look at Google, but I don't know those kinds of things off the top. I don't know about engines or how they work or what they repair. I use my jigsaw to fix my deck, and that felt really good to me. But I don't have the tools and I don't have the knowledge already about woodworking or about any types of those. Like I can't key a lock, I can't weld. I don't know about electricity or plumbing. Um, I'm not very good at growing things in the ground or keeping flowers alive. So dang man, that's that was kind of a bummer to me. I thought about trying to like get a summer internship gig or something like that in Charlotte next summer since I'm so bored to see if I could cut it in corporate America. You think I could cut it in corporate America? More money would be cool, but I do like wearing my Birkenstock, so we'll see about how that goes. I'm not that hard up for money. I just want some more of it. Um, Next summer, though, maybe I'll be managing the new coffee shop in town. I think that could be a definite possibility. But yeah, in terms of special skills, like I can teach and I can talk. Too bad neither of those pay me very much, but I can do those things. So I guess I'll talk about education some. Um, there's this in politics. That's what I do. And so there's this new thing called Project 25 that the Heritage Foundation created a blueprint for a next President Trump term, a blueprint for where they want to go with the conservative movement. And I think it's like 800, 900 pages long. And I've read some of the stuff, and some of the stuff is wild, like really extreme policies. Even Donald Trump says it's really extreme policies. He says that as he tries to distance himself from Project 25. His vice president candidate, Vance, is tied up with Project 25, friends with those people. But education is a part of it, and the author of that was a member of the transition team for the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. And Glenn Youngkin is like relative. He's very conservative, but relatively moderate in terms of like MAGA, you know. And so I say that to say that they can try to distance themselves from Project 25, but the conservative movement's fingerprints are all over it, and you can take that for how you want it. I just want to talk about the education part of it because what I don't think we should do is just take if you disagree with it. I don't think you should just see that this is a part of Project 25 and then completely discount it or immediately discount it. On the other hand, if you are a conservative, then I don't think you should just take what's in Project 25 and say, yes, that's what we should do. Like, why wouldn't we want to have long, thoughtful, drawn out discussions? When did we get past that and just rely on memery? Like that's a huge problem for us. I'm a public school teacher. I've been a public school teacher. I'm entering my third decade, into my third decade. I'm sorry, decade. Crap. Dang. That made me feel old there for a second. But yeah, I mean, this will be my 22nd year in public education. And so, our 21st year in public education. And so, like, I believe in it. I believe in public education. I believe in what we do, but I'm not closed to these ideas. I mean, the Project 25 calls for eliminating the Department of Education. Now, I looked up how much money we get from the federal government in North Carolina, and it's 20%. Like 20% of our education budget in North Carolina comes from the feds. And so, if you eliminated the Department of Education and all that money went away, it'd be devastating. It would be devastating. But what they call for is, yes, eliminating the Department of Education, but the money that goes to the states now would just come as a block grant. In other words, here's the money that you get from the federal government in North Carolina. You spend it how you want to. And that's their goal. That's their aim, is to make it a state a state-run issue, which is what a lot of the conservative MAGA movement is about, is returning all of this stuff to the states. Devolution is what we call it in government, AP government. Ending things like Title One, which goes to help low-income students in schools. Ending the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, probably, but definitely ending that program and funding, which is, these are tens of billions of dollars that we're talking about that are currently invested, getting rid of all of that kind of stuff, and then turning most of that money into vouchers. And we see that happening in North Carolina already, and it will continue to happen, especially if Mark Robinson is elected governor, and therefore there is not a threat of a veto. But a lot of our money is going to vouchers. I forget what they call it. I can't remember. Um, Something scholarship, opportunity scholarships, and that money isn't going to me. It isn't going to give me a raise. I know that that money is going to give scholarships to anybody. Vouchers. They got rid of the income limit so that school choice is available to you. Now, I don't like a whole lot of what's going on. I wish they would give me a raise instead of giving it to public vouchers because I'm, private vouchers because I'm self-interested. But I'm not naive. I'm not like blind to say that there aren't real problems in our public education system. Like what we're doing really isn't working all that well. I mean, we're treading water in a lot of ways. And we have opportunities now because like we have AI, we have individualized opportunities where we don't just have to put as many into a classroom as we can and then do the best that we can and then ultimately end up teaching to the middle. Our top kids are going to be fine. Our top kids get AP, opportunities, and they're going to be pushed and they're going to be challenged. Um, but what about the middle kids and the lower kids who are in these mass classes? Maybe there should be better ways because I do believe that education is the ticket. I do believe that. And that if someone is from a low income, a low socioeconomic background, that if that student will raise themselves up a little bit through education, then they can achieve more. Not It's not going to be a solve all problems right away. It's now you have better situation, and so you can have a more stable family, and so you can raise your kids in an environment where you are able to read to them. You know what I mean? Like that's the ideal. And so maybe charter schools and private schools and magnet schools and home schools and whatever, like schools that are run all on AI and target individuals. I'm fine with all of that. I'm fine with all of that. What I don't agree with and what I think we should have a conversation with is that I get painted, that public school teachers get painted as indoctrination centers. Like I'm indoctrinating these kids to hate whatever or to believe whatever. And I've seen the meme, trust me, if I could indoctrinate your kids, I would indoctrinate them to wear deodorant and bring a pencil. Um, but it's disingenuous, right? Like it's disingenuous to say we don't like these indoctrination centers of the public schools. We're going to give vouchers for school choice, and then those vouchers go to schools that are indoctrinating them through religious education or you know conservative education. I'm fine with teaching that America is the greatest country. I'm fine with teaching the America's greatness, the United States greatness. I'm fine with that. I think that the human achievement and the human accomplishment that we have seen in the past couple hundred years is phenomenal. That's You don't have to leave that out to talk also about our struggles, about our marginalization of people. You don't have to leave one or the other out. Anyway, a lot of our kids aren't succeeding though. Is it the whole system? Are we defining deviancy down, as that one senator said, Moynihan? We've got inflated AP scores. That's a huge story. You know, what does it mean that last year, if you only made a three on AP US history, and this year you made a five because 25% more kids passed because they lowered the standards. Is that what we should do? I don't know. Um, so yeah, anyway, I just think it's interesting that we dismiss these things out of hand and don't take the individual pieces and really have thorough debate. And I understand why, because most people don't want to put that. Many people probably aren't able to put that type of thought into these intricacies, but most people don't want to anyway. And so we just follow along with whichever jersey we wear, whether it's an R or a D or whatever, or we just stop caring altogether. But man, what a time! What a time! Trump, you know, with his ear bandage and all the people there with the ear bandage and at the convention, and Hulk Hogan comes out. And I mean, speaking of the young and the restless and Victor and Nikki, and man, Lee Greenwood is still on the stage. Lee Greenwood's still out there singing "I'm proud to be an American," and the masculinity and the machismo that were a part of the Republican convention in Milwaukee. And Trump with his opportunity and billed as, "Hey, I'm a new guy because I escaped death," and all this kind of stuff, but then rambles for 90 minutes about all the things he always says. Biden's got COVID and Biden is probably on his way out, but maybe he's not because he's seething, and maybe he is and maybe he isn't. And this is where we are. And is it going to be Kamala? And man, what a time. What a time. Um, and I saw that, somebody said living, man, I'm just over here living through history again. And this generation, these last couple years has been a real thing. And so I really started to think about, okay, well, sometimes we say that because it's, we are living through it, and so it seems like it's the thing. So I thought about my 46 years, so starting in 1978, and I wanted to rank them like the craziest things that happened. And number five, I put the 2010s because we had like Black Lives Matter rallies, and there was a lot of civil unrest that was beginning with that. Trump was elected over Hillary Clinton. That was a crazy thing, and then Trump got impeached. The Me Too movement was going on. The Cubs won the World Series. Um, 2010s, that was a that was a wild time. End of Barack Obama. Uh, he was in there from 12 to 16 and all that kind of stuff. But I put that as five, as the most like crazy stuff to live through. Number two, I put the 80s. I don't remember Jonestown where all those people did mass suicide. I don't remember that. And I don't remember 3 Mile Island melting down the nuclear. I do remember the Iran hostage situation. I mean, I was like five, so I don't remember too much. Soviets invaded Afghanistan. The space shuttle program, you know, began. MTV kicked off with like, oh man, I do remember Beavis and Butthead. Um, AIDS became a thing. The internet, we didn't have it yet, but it started. Ronald Reagan was shot. There was an assassination attempt on him. And he was hit and was hospitalized for a few days. The Challenger exploded. That happened on my birthday. The space shuttle. Chernobyl, another nuclear meltdown in Russia. The Exxon Valdez oil spill. Tiananmen Square in China, where that guy got run over by that tank. And the Berlin Wall came down. So the 80s were a time now. And remember, like, that's Rocky Four. We're still kind of at the peak of, we got a bunch of nuclear weapons and we will annihilate you and you will annihilate us. Mutual assured destruction. I got the 90s as number three, kind of crazy time to live through. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. I might have to switch the 80s up to number three. But in the 90s, you got the Gulf War the first time. That's when Whitney was singing the national anthem. That wasn't that didn't last long. That was George Bush the first. The human genome began to be mapped. The USSR fell. The Cold War was over. Dr. Dre's The Chronic came out. Wow. We used to listen to that junk. in the parking lot of high school. The LA riots with Rodney King and all that kind of stuff. Amazon began. The Oklahoma City bombing with Timothy McVeigh. Um, Columbine happened. The first kind of major school shooting, which that kind of has become, you know, an annual event now. Bill Clinton was impeached, Monica Lewinsky, and all that kind of stuff. Google began, and Viagra, and Deep Blue, that computer that beat that guy in chess. Oprah's book club started in the '90s, so that was something, man. The 2000s to 2010, so it's the 2000s, or I think so. Um, Y2K, that wasn't a thing. Survivor started. The human genome was fully mapped. 9/11, like that was crazy. And I still think that where we are now is in a 9/11, like a post 9/11 world. I think we're still, I think the repercussions from all of that, I don't think we fully understand, or I don't think we fully appreciate that all of this madness that we're in now is really still a part, like our whole society was restructured and reorganized. The Afghan war, the Iraq war with weapons of mass destruction, Hurricane Katrina, Darfur, the tsunami. We demoted Pluto as a planet. Streaming services began and the financial system melted down. So that was a definite crazy time. But yeah, I mean, the 2000, um, you got with COVID and George Floyd and impeachment and January 6th, and now a Trump assassination attempt, and a president who is running for reelection who can't put sentences together and calls for his to step down to potentially a brokered convention. Um, there is something to these past several years. I think COVID is going to wreak havoc on us for a long time. I don't mean the disease, I mean the response to it. So anyway, um, yeah, you kids, you kids have been living through it for sure. Way better than I have. We could talk about like what got us where we are. I mean, social media is a huge deal. The breakdown of families, the celebration of being ignorant. I was thinking about some of the ways that like the church has left a lot of people. A lot of time it's is that the people have left the church, but I think it's the other way around. Like there's this celebration of ignorance. Like when you say that if you're going to go to Davidson College or you're going to get an education and you're going to read widely, and then there's a at best a skepticism, but we got this celebration of not wanting to be scholarly and academic, and I don't know. That's for a different time, for a different time. So that's some pretty heavy stuff that I've just been thinking about. Maybe you can see like how I really do need to get back into school, how I really do need to start making some more trips to the art museum or something, because all this stuff is just rattling around in my head. I will say that I've discovered salty caramel truffle ice cream. There's this place in Gastonia called Handles, but the new place called Scoopily Doodly Doo in Boiling Springs, they got it too. The problem with the salty caramel truffle milkshake, which is what I go for, is that the truffles don't get blended up, and so they all end up down at the bottom. And so when you're anticipating that last drink, of that amazing salty caramel milkshake, it isn't there because it's just all the little truffles in the bottom. I don't want to eat those last. It is National Ice Cream Day, so happy National Ice Cream Day. And I did see that Dairy Queen has the salty caramel blizzard. So I'm probably going to go for that here in just a second. Um, one of the things that I've been thinking about is peer recommendations. I think it's Davidson's application. Davidson's application asks for you to get a recommendation from, teachers and counselors and all that kind of stuff. But they also ask you to get one from one of your peers. And I just think that that's a question that's interesting to think about. Who would you ask? Who would you ask to be a peer recommender for you? And who would you most want to do one for? And what would you write? And I think that would be interesting if you were able to think about who it is to write them to write it for them. Write a peer recommendation for somebody. You don't have to tell them, and then send it to them. Email it or put it in the mail. I think that would be pretty cool. I did get my carburetor spray cleaner. My guy Matthew helped me out, knowing where it is. I'm going to spray that stuff in there later, and then hopefully it's going to work. Otherwise, probably my fuel line. That's what I figure. We're working on this project that I can't really talk about too much yet, but it's with the Earl Scruggs Center and Earl Scruggs' old home place and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things they asked me is, as mayor, is, who are the influencers in Boiling Springs? Who are those people? And you know what? I was pretty, like, at first I don't know. I know people. I know who the Hammocks are and who the Greens are, and I know who owns this business maybe and that business sometimes, and whatever. But like, I don't run in those circles. Um, I'm not mayor because I have connections, and I was kind of proud about that. Like, I don't know who the power players, and that's funny to think about anyway. But I'm talking about people who have a lot of wealth, whether that's land wealth or whatever, and have been around for a long time, influential in these types of decisions. I don't know who they are. Um, but anyway, I am. I'm working. I'm working on myself, working on being myself. And I've realized that maybe as I've gone through this DT madness process, through counseling, through writing, through reading, through venting on this platform, um, that I am becoming me, maybe more so than I have ever been. And maybe that's part of the restlessness, is that I've always done things I don't mean to, this sounds like I'm not a saint or a martyr or anything like that. I don't mean it that way. But my um I've always done things to please other people. Like, you liking me, you being pleased with me, it is my motivation, and has been for four decades. And I'm getting to the point where I care less about that, and I want to get to the point where I don't care about it at all. And I don't mean that in a cold and harsh way. I don't mean alienating and isolating myself from everyone ever, but I just mean getting to who I am. I don't know. That's some stuff I've got to think about. Hey, the 100th episode is coming up next week, and so what should I do? What should I do? Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments? Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any things you want to add in? I've thought about going forward doing interviews with former students. Like, I know several, dozens and dozens of former students who are accomplishing great things, who have accomplished great things. It'd be wild to go back to like the early days of students, but then work through all of that. And I thought about trying to figure out, of course I'd have to figure out how to do that on the Podbean, but I'm sure it's pretty easy. But do you have questions? If you have questions you want to send in, or statements that you want me to read, something like that, churchof6@gmail.com. And the six is the number. Okay, so CHURCHOF and then the number six, churchof6@gmail.com. Email me and let me know what questions you have about the podcast, about salty caramel truffle, about the best music to listen to, about school or education, or I'm an art guy, so you can ask me about those types of things too. churchof6@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at DT Madness, and let me know, and then we'll have the 100th episode next week. Well, this has been a Church of Six production, brought to you by the Bucket of Life, the Rope of Relationship, the Foundation Tower of Stone, the Wall of Belief, the Token of Hope, and the Magic Rock times one received and one given. Nothing divine is desperate, and in order to be, try to never seem. May all your circumstances serve to awaken compassion, and as you go, teach peace. Don't forget to believe, y'all, and be live. Grace and peace, my friends.